Imagine how the society would work if there were no secrets.
Don't you think that technology is eventually taking us in that direction?
Yes, but it's not going to be Neuralink. It's not going to be brain computer stuff. It's going to be the real thing.
So you think technology will aid us in achieving the real thing?
Yes.
How so?
Okay. So one day we're talking to Gary Nolan. Gary says, have you ever looked at the genetics of highly talented people? There's a lot of folklore out there that there are people who are psychic who come from psychic families. And then there are people who don't have anything psychic and don't have anybody talking about psychic stuff. That suggests genetics. So this was a couple of years ago. We decided to do an experiment that we call PsyGenes. We're looking for the psychic gene, more likely a polygenetic trait, but nevertheless something about genetics. So we do an experiment where we recruit 3,000 people using the internet who say that they're psychic from psychic families. And then we do all kinds of vetting to make sure that they are who they say they are, and they have some talent, and we get their DNA. We only had enough money to find, out of the 3,000 people, 13, because we also did face-to-face interviews to make sure they weren't nuts. So we get their DNA. Then we find matched controls, and we do standard methods of comparing the two sets of genomes. And so we found something that we didn't expect, which was that the psychics were all so-called wild type. They didn't have any unusual things happening in their DNA. The controls had a significant effect in an intron sequence. So when you have DNA, it's billions of base pairs. Only about 50,000 of them produce proteins. It's called the exome. It's a portion that creates our body. It's that stuff. All of the rest of it used to be called junk DNA because they didn't know what it did. It's the intron sequence. It's the thing between the genes. That now we know is the epigenetic portion. It's the portion of the DNA that turns genes on and off. These controls had a mutation in their intron sequence. So they were turning something off. We still don't know exactly what it is, but something about their makeup was turning off psychic sensitivity. And so one of the people on our project was a specialist in the genetics of societies. Different societies have different genetic makeup. And he found that, to our surprise there too, that countries that were exposed to Christianity, the longer they were exposed, the more this intron sequence was there, the mutation. We started thinking, well, how does that make any sense? And then suddenly we understood. The Inquisition had systematically looked for people over hundreds of years who had these abilities, and then they killed them. And so you think about this is a non-evolutionary method, but nevertheless a pruning of a portion of humanity. So They were getting rid of people who had this, and what were left over were people who had this no psychic stuff at all. So, yeah, so it's like a eugenics in an opposite direction where they weren't trying to pull people for talent but get rid of the talent, and you can see it in the genome.
And this is directly connected to the Inquisition? Because so the Inquisition, this is what were they like? Who were they targeting specifically?
They were targeting witches. So the witches were once, an awful lot of innocent people were caught up in that as well. But people who were known as healers, who were people who had precognition. And of course, the church at the time was just concerned that somebody's going to come along that's going to attract our followers away from us. So magic was okay within the church. Within the bounds of the church, if a priest is anointed in a certain way, they can do magic. The whole ceremony of the Eucharist is a magical practice. It's okay. Outside of the church, it was not okay. And so it was a very heavy-handed way of ensuring that the power would remain in the church.
So by enforcing their Christian ideology, they eliminated anybody that had any alternative powers or visions or anything weird, any other kind of practices.
Yeah. And so the case of the Catholic saints is very interesting. Like Joseph of Cupertino was said to have levitated and also to do bilocation. very psychic things. He was lucky in a sense that he was already a priest. Lots of people, thousands of people saw him levitate. And basically a deal was made with the Inquisition that you now need to go to this place out in the middle of nowhere and don't show this anymore to anybody. Because we don't...
So when you say he could levitate, like how high?
There are stories of him levitating 30 feet.
Sometimes drifting into the rafters of churches in front of astonished crowds, and even Pope Urban the Eighth.
Yeah.
You could read more about it in his extraordinary life through Franciscan media.
Yeah, St. Teresa.
The patron saint, go back, please. Often called the patron saint of air travelers.
Yeah, why not? Right, we're all levitating.
Well, that is the most famous levitator in Catholic history. So there's other levitators?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a book called...
How come nobody could do that now?
There are stories that people can do it now, but so far in the laboratory we haven't been able to see this. So there's a book called...
Stop, please. Go back. This one, St. Teresa of Avila, a Spanish mystic who famously recorded that her levitations occurred unexpectedly during states of deep spiritual rapture. She described the sensation as a violent force lifting her up from beneath her feet, and was so embarrassed by it that she instructed fellow nuns to physically hold her down. Whoa.
Yeah, dozens
Francis
of
of Assisi. But it's like, do it now. Why do you think people don't do it now and film it on their iPhone?